Number 7, my name is Kelly Grant. I'm the vice chair of the board. I will be chairing the meeting tonight as our chair is currently out of town. He is zooming in. As we always start our meetings, we're going to start with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we were saying, this is a very large crowd for us tonight, and we love having people in here for amazing reasons. And I'm going to ask Mr. James Russell to come on up.
I believe it's the chief.
It's or chief, sorry, Chief Daigle, sorry. Sorry, I've only been talking. Funny there.
All right. We're here tonight in front of the board. I introduced some newly promoted sergeants for the department. I also dragged along one that was appointed over a year ago because he never got his night of fame over here. It's been a while since we've done this. To give everybody a quick overview of what's going on with the department, we're in the process of making several changes due to retirements, regular retirements, injury retirements, officers transferring out. So a lot of turnover, a lot of new blood coming in and out. The purpose tonight, basically, these officers you're going to see in front of you, they reflect the future of the town. They're the guys that have seniority over officers in the department. And myself, Lieutenant Ranieri, Lieutenant Russell, have basically felt that these are the guys that we need to supervise the new crop of kids coming in the door. I have one recruit graduating this week. I have 3 more in the process. We got the list today, get together, we're gonna start interviews, and we're gonna be replacing myself and 3 or 4 other officers that have left. So within the next year or 2, you're gonna have a lot of new blood on the police department, and it's crucial to have officers like the ones here tonight that have some experience and some seniority to be leaders of these new guys. So what I'd like to do is have them come forward. Is that the best way to do it, Dennis?
Yes.
4 guys going forward. I'm going to start off with Sergeant Marston. He's the one that never got his night of fame over a year ago. He started as a dispatcher way back in 2006. He spent a lot of time behind the desk. He was also an auxiliary officer, I believe. I didn't write that down. We used to have a good auxiliary force, which we had to disband. I'm sure everybody knows, but basically he's been crucial as far as our yearly firearms updates. He's an instructor at our range. He's a member of the Metropolitan Task Force, which is a mixture of 45, I believe, cities and towns. We all work together, share resources, motorcycles, dogs, SWAT teams, rapid response teams. Sergeant Marston has been a big part of that, and he's shown he's got what it takes to take charge, and he's been doing a great job over a year or a little more than that since he got his stripes. Mark Ald, he was one of our detectives. Did a great job in the detectives, been on the department since 2015. So he's got a little bit of patrol and a little bit of detective experience behind him. And so far he's been doing a great job running his shifts. Dave Ayotte, 27 years on the department. I shouldn't talk. Dave, basically what happens is a lot of times if one of the sergeants isn't at work, the senior patrolman takes over and he's in charge of the shift. So David's had his share of shifts that he's been in charge over the years, and he's done a great job. So I have no qualms at all bringing a senior man like him forward for stripes tonight as a sergeant. Chris Padula, here he is. Okay, started in 2016. Also, he's been doing court work for us for a while. Pretty interesting job. Now that Jen Goslin's gone, he fit right in her shoes and he's been doing the court work. He's also been a firearms instructor currently, and he plays the crucial role without sergeant roles around anymore of being the safety officer. With all the growth and expansion in town, it's constant meetings with contractors, developers, DPW directors. We know we're always all over the map when it comes to being a safety officer in this town. So I have no qualms bringing all 4 subjects here in front of the board tonight. This is the future of the police department, as we vet out some of our old dinosaurs like myself. And basically, I just wanted to introduce everybody to the 4 new sergeants.
If anyone wants to take any pictures.
Oh, good. Yeah, family's gonna pin the new sign.
Everybody come on up. That's gonna be doing the pinning. All right, thank you very much.
One of the best parts about being on this board is having great things like this to celebrate. And so I'm glad that you guys came in to do this here with us tonight, because Chief is right. You guys are the future of this department going forward. And so we're very proud to have you guys all here, and we're very happy that we got to take part in this celebration of you guys tonight. So thank you all for coming in, and thank you for your families coming in and supporting them. And thank you for the rest of the department for coming in and supporting you guys tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well done.
Thanks, Chief.
So we'll give a couple minutes if anyone wants to follow the piece out. And then we can fill in some of these chairs. I mean, I don't know how I follow up a little girl pinning her dad.
I know, right?
So next on our agenda, we're gonna, do we have anyone here from the BBA for their one-day liquor license?
Sue's gonna zoom in. I don't know if that's Sue or not.
We're gonna give the BBA a minute, and we're gonna jump around a little bit. So I would love to invite our state rep, Mr. Mike Soder, to discuss the Playability Foundation grant.
That and many other things.
Okay.
So I'm very honored to be here. A couple weeks ago, I was in front of the school committee, giving them an update, and I wanted to have the opportunity to address the board, just because we've had so many things coming and not really having a big public official meeting over it. So couple of things. Yes, one of the things we did secure this last week is the economic development package passed. The tax pieces of the economic development package didn't pass, but the earmark piece, the budget piece, some of the programs, some of the things that are in that economic development package, there's going to be a wave of grants and things like that that we're hoping that every town is going to be able to apply for. Things from safe streets, things to continuing on some more works grants funding. Also environmental grants that you also can look for culverts and things like that for updating, which some of it is being funded through ARPA money. So some of those projects and those grants are going to have to be done immediately, because we're running very close up against the deadline, and the federal government has no plans to extend the deadline for your ARPA funds to be extended. So that's one thing. But in that money that was passed, and what was passed last week in the governor's, looks like pending the governor's veto, we've got a few more days left here to do that. We will be receiving, Bellingham will be receiving $25,000 for the Stallbrook Sensory Park that I know is a very big issue, key issue to fund and stop funding, and look at things to fund it. We have another wave of opera money too that we have to spend and look towards, so I think that would be something we would look towards again, maybe continue to fund the last few pieces if we can. I know that there's gonna be announcements here on some of the senior center stuff. As you know, some of the funding that we got in the budget went towards the design fees and different things like that that you are doing at the senior center. The big announcement that we had was last week, 2 weeks ago, where the town did receive a $2 million works grant to tie in with WS Development and Mass DOT. But there's also going to be an additional $2 million for a total of $4 million. The other $2 million will be coming from Department of Transportation. That's going to be funded through their program. So you're going to see I see the map over there. It is going to, I think, with all the construction we got going on in Bellingham, we're catching up. It's a double-edged sword, and I know that some people look at everything and say, when is this mess going to be over? We are growing, and all I can say is that between what we've done out front here, what we've done over on Maple Street, what we've done from the bus barn to Baptist Church, which is going to be starting, plus this project, Bellingham has received over $15 million, close to $15 million in infrastructure money. So I think that's pretty good in a very small period of time. So these are projects I know when I was sitting on that side of the table, we were trying to desperately fund, and desperately what we had to do to contain, to expand with all the expansion we have between homes and businesses to make these roads a better and safer place to be. I'd say a little bit of short-term pain is a huge long-term benefit. We will still in these next 2 years continue. I find that our relationships are getting much better, and I know we'll have a new administration coming in, but I do feel pretty confident that some of those people from the current administration are going to be rolling over into this new administration. So we're going to work very closely with them to continue to improve and do things that I know that you have on tap for Hartford Ave, continue with TIP programs that you're applying for, things like that. So we are going to be very aggressively moving those forward and trying to move those forward. There is a lot of opera money still to be spent, and we have to spend it before the federal government decides they want to take it away. So I had a couple of other town meetings, and I did say this at the school board meeting, is that there is rumblings when I've met with the congressional delegate that with the economy the way it's going, if money seems to not being the opera money is not being used, as a possibility that they will bring that money back. So if you haven't used your money, or you have it earmarked already to being used, is a good risk with a new congressional leadership and even some economic downturn. They'll be looking for money to pull back. So there is a risk if you don't use your opera money. And we'll be more than happy to have A&F come in if there's questions, some gray areas of things you're not sure of that come under ARPA that you can utilize the funds for. But I think it's pretty wide open once we get A&F involved on how that money can be spent. I think these are very exciting times for Bellingham in the sense that what we have going on, I think, like I said, once all of this construction is done, I think we'll look back at this moment, and I think we'll have a town that is improving, a town that economically is thriving. It was great to be up at the new floor and decor store today, and there's actually, you ran into 3 or 4 different people that live in town that have jobs there, which is, it's a good thing. And so it does bring jobs when people don't think it brings jobs to your community. It does. And I think the expansion, the economic development that we've seen has proven to be very successful from both from a town revenue standpoint, but an economic development, keeping jobs here locally. So do you have any questions? I know that there's some questions about the new housing laws with being close to that. We're working through that gray area of that law. So hopefully we'll see where they are, but it looks like we'll have to you have to designate a certain area under the new law.
We've had council a couple of times, just recently, the last meeting, actually, to go over the process, so we have been staying on top of it.
I know it's a sticking point, but I think, I think there's talking with the administration on the back end of this, I think there has to be some change of, for example, you have the apartments that are being built here, they're not even open yet. It would be nice if you could get that designated as that particular spot, but they're encouraging more because our housing is, we have a housing problem. And I can tell you that from the get-go. I just want to also make sure fuel assistance, I know that the letters went out for the electricity. But fuel assistance, please call my office if you need help with fuel assistance. It is brutal. It's getting through the process is tough. And with the increase in rates, there's assistance there where you might not have qualified before, you might qualify now. So you should get through that process and let us help you through the bureaucracy. I know the senior center has somebody on staff that can help you through that stuff. But our job is to help you process it quicker. And get through that process a lot easier. And those that are having problems where rent has gone up, especially in affordable housing, we're doing everything we can possible to get those applications refreshed so that your subsidies can offset with any subsidized housing needs that you have. So there's a lot going on because of inflation, but please don't hesitate to definitely on. I will have a new staffer. Effective November 28th, Eli will be transitioning into another position with me, but not as my legislative aide. Curtis Bosher, who is he's a veteran actually. He's worked with my colleague Allison, who's very knows the system inside and out. Is actually going to come back to the State House after a short stint away. He's very excited about joining the team, and he actually will be with me tomorrow for all my communities tomorrow. So he's starting to show his face, but I'll be through introducing him to Dennis and the rest of the boards because he will be a great asset for my office. As Eli has been, Eli, I have to say, has been in a very short period of time. Eli is exceptional. He's been an exceptional employee, an exceptional staffer. But it's good that I'm going to continue to have him in another role. So, any questions?
If I could, I can tell you that we applied for a lot of grants over the years, and if we hit on one every 3 or 4 years, we're doing well, and that's how most towns look at it. But we've hit on 4 major infrastructure grants in the last 4 years, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Representative Soda's been representing us for that period of time. So the success that we've had working with Mike is just phenomenal. So thanks so much for that. The endless number of meetings that we've had and conference calls. It takes a lot of lobbying and politicking, unfortunately, to get some of these more competitive grants, and we've been extremely successful in the last 4 years. I certainly appreciate it.
No problem, Dennis. My pleasure. And this is my hometown, and like I said, I've sat down on that side of the desk, and everybody's always asked me why I decided to do this. And it's not just here, but it's throughout my whole entire district that received. Bellingham alone has received a good amount, but you have had a lot of projects that you desperately need. And we're seeing that in Uxbridge now with their growth. They're working out Blackstone, but we've got 2 more years to do a lot more that we need to do. I'm pretty confident where I'm going to be tomorrow. At the end of the day. So we're already starting to transition into the new session. But we're excited about representing all the towns again, and we now add Medway 1, my precinct, all my precincts in the district. So it's growing, and I think as Bellingham keeps growing, Bellingham might end up being its own town represented one day. So we'll see what happens. But I think with all the things that with your leadership, Dennis, and the board's leadership, I think you guys have really set the path for a town that's going to be, I think you're going to see a lot of growth over the next 10 years here. So it's going to be exciting times. So nothing to say. Wow, I got it. Thank you.
Go rest up for tomorrow.
I will. Bye, everybody.
Should stick around for this next one.
Yeah. So given that we have so many of our friends here today and we know what they're here for, we're gonna jump the ARPA up the agenda. And we are going to address our ARPA project acceptance for this evening. And I have the motion in front of me. Do I have anyone who would like to read the motion? Then you may do that, Miss Cindy.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the projects as listed herein with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
And for, even though typically we don't have to, I'm going to ask you to actually read for all of our friends here. The
Delighted
description.
to read for our friends in the audience. We are looking to allocate $350,000 from the town of Bellingham ARPA funds towards the Council on Aging kitchen upgrade that we've been hearing about for so long. Very exciting upgrade to the senior center, and I think it's gonna really, I mean, you guys are so busy anyway and so well attended. This is really gonna just be incredible in terms of what you can do and reach out to so many more people. Very exciting for us.
And we know
and
that
for you guys.
Tim's been doing a lot of work with Josie and down there on Saturdays, taking measurements and,
It's gonna be a spring groundbreaking.
Yep.
We had hoped to get it in this month actually, but it's just too tight. But there'll be a modest addition and commercial grade equipment going in there and we'll have quite an operation. I'll be going for breakfast with the
I know, right?
second from Mr. Connor. Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to add? All right, I would like to call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Yeah. Motion passes, friends. So
That was an aye, by the way.
we, as you know, most of us spend a good amount of time in that kitchen with our gloves on. We're gonna be doling out stuff, so we are actually pretty excited for you as well. So we can't see what happens in the spring. So very exciting for everyone. So excited for you. Are you?
All right,
Love it.
Bill, for sure. You gonna get a bigger grill? Bill, you gonna get a bigger grill, or is that not part of this upgrade?
I think Bill needs a Blackstone.
We did all right with that, bro.
Yes, we did.
Good. I just was informed that Sue is having a difficult time logging in. Is everything in order?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the insurance is established. If we can award that 1 day all alcohol to the BBA, it's their Taste of Bellingham that they do every year, and they do a phenomenal job. They'll have somebody they're responsible for the alcohol. Fields is doing it.
What's that? Oh, okay, and they supplied their,
Insurance.
certificate of
Yep.
liability.
I have a first from Mr. Connor. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes. All right, so the BBA is all set. Your kitchen is all set. So if you all would love to stay for the rest of the meeting, we'd love to have. Terry breaks out into a big giant grin.
Hopefully we'll get invited for one of the first meals cooked inside.
Yeah.
That would be delightful. We'd love that.
All right, so the next on our agenda, Cedar Hill Road, one-way discussion with residents. We are Cedar Hill over here, wonderful. So
Kelly, I'm gonna ask folks here, because you didn't help us to fill this out. from here to pass it on.
perfect. Thank you, Hillary. So the residents of Cedar Hill received a letter from Mr. Frame. The issue of turning Cedar Hill back into a two-way was brought to our attention. I also have something that I would like to read, but I'll do that at the end. Is there anyone who wants to speak first in regards to this?
So,
You will?
Daniel Cole,
No,
Can you spell your last name?
DOLE. Live on 8 Cedar Hill Road. Is the purpose, was it brought up to you guys that someone was interested in changing it into a two-way? Is that what the reason for this whole thing is?
I'm actually gonna ask,
Or is it, they just want to see how residents feel about it?
so Mr. Martinez, I'm gonna.
I can
ask
speak.
you to answer it. Okay, perfect.
Sure, if you can hear me, okay, welcome everybody. And sorry, I couldn't be there today. I'm traveling for work, my once a year trip. The reason why this was brought up in one of our meetings was that I was approached by a Cedar Hill resident on more than one occasion, asking me why it was still a one-way. I didn't know the history of why it was turned into a one-way many years ago, even though I've been in Bellingham for close to 40 years. I lived on Valley View Road when I first moved to Bellingham. It was a two-way street at that time, and then I know it changed shortly thereafter. Mr. Frayne filled me in and filled the board in on the history because it was before there were lights, there was a really severe accident, and it was deemed that it was unsafe. So the town at that time opted to make it a one-way. So I was asked, why is this a one-way? It's kind of it's an inconvenience having to go up Arrowhead or to use Farm Street. So I really didn't know, and so I raised it in a select board meeting, and the discussion ensued. And maybe it was, it made no sense to continue this being a one-way and make it a two-way like most streets in the town of Bellingham. So that was just a discussion. This had nothing to do with what was happening out on Hartford Ave with the Meehan project. It had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. This was something completely aside from what was going on with the Meehan project. So that's why this was brought up. It was a resident that brought it up to my attention. And so I, as I do, if someone brings something up to me, I will raise it in a select board meeting, which I did.
So we
So-
thought going
Go ahead.
off of, the best thing to do at that point was to ask Mr. Green to send out a letter to the residents and ask them for their input on the situation, give them residents the forum to come in and talk to us and let us know how they were feeling about it.
I've been in the neighborhood about 8 years now, so I've only known it as a one-way. I believe my strong feelings, I should think it should stay a one-way. Reason is, it is a wide road, but in the wintertime, sorry to say, the snow plows don't go to curb to curb to make it wide enough. So if you have that lane of traffic hampered, sorry to say, the neighbors don't plow their sidewalks, so now you got the kids being dropped off at farm, the school kids being dropped off at farm, and they have to walk up Cedar Hill. They have no place to walk except on the street. Now, if everything's narrow and you got two-way traffic, I think it's more of a hazard. Also, now if you do turn it into a two-way, when you come up to Hartford, how are you gonna turn left and go straight? Are people gonna wait behind? Are they gonna create a turning lane? Is there enough room to have a turning lane? Because you're gonna have people that are going to be waiting to go straight, and you have people waiting to turn, and it's just gonna, in my opinion, is gonna cause more congestion. Because right now you have a turning lane just to go left. There's no arrow, but you still gotta have the courtesy of another coming across and sharing the lanes. But now if you have someone coming across, where's the people gonna go that gotta turn left, and where's the people gonna go straight? Depending on who's going straight and who's going left, people are gonna be waiting. And in my opinion, I don't think there's enough room to even widen it to have a turning lane and a straight lane and a front lane. So that's my opinion, and that's how I look at it. So that's where I stand, and I think it should stay exactly how it is. Of course, it could probably have some improvements, but I think that's how it should be. I've only known it that way, and I think it's been there, 30 years, 32 years, 90 or something like that. So, but that's all I have to say.
Really good points. Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Cole. Yeah, if it's all right with the rest of the residents, I would like to read something The De Leon Lane residence is not in attendance tonight because Mr. Lane is in the hospital. But Diana De Leon actually sent me an email that she would like read if everyone is okay with that. She said, good evening, my name is Diana Lane De Leon, and I have been a resident of Cedar Hill along with my parents since November of 1988. When we moved here, as you all know, town was nothing like it is now. There were no big commercial businesses on Farm Street or anywhere in town for that matter. We didn't even have lights at the four-way intersection we are discussing. In 1990, there was a petition that was signed by the entire neighborhood due to the fact that people were coming down our street at such a high speed. It was dangerous. We were then granted the one way or do not enter. Fast forward to current time, I cannot allow my 8-year-old daughter out to play in the front yard or even ride her bike on the sidewalk because we have cars flying down the street headed towards Hartford Ave. If you remove the one way, you are creating a very dangerous situation for everyone who lives in this neighborhood. There is no reason that this needs to change. As it is, we still have people that come down from the Hartford Ave intersection illegally and they're going too fast. I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting, nor is my husband or my parents due to my father being in the ICU, but I can say that I speak for 4 residents at 23 Cedar Hill Road who are 100% against this. I beg the town to listen to the people who live here and need to deal with the traffic. Please do not open Cedar Hill Road to a 2-way street. So that was from. Is there anyone here who has an opinion differing than wanting to keep it a one-way?
First of all, I'd like to hear from the safety
I was
officer,
that, well, that was gonna be my
but I
next
also, I
one.
mean, I have my own opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were having discussions with the Meehan project, it was noted that many of the residents disregard the one-way and drive down there, and that letter confirmed that. So I'm wondering if you as residents acknowledge that your neighbors are violating the one-way because it's convenient.
The signage seems unclear. Right at the end of the street, it says, do not enter one way. But is that for the entire length of the road? When you come up Arrowhead, a lot of people do make a left. And some, and residents will make a right. So is it 2-way from Arrowhead down, or is it 1-way the whole length? There's certainly no signage at the intersection of Arrowhead and Cedar Hill Road to provide any direction.
I mean, the one thing that was brought up to us was that that one-way was created before there were lights there. So the fact that it's a one-way is inconsistent with the other streets in town. And hence, I think we asked the safety officer to give an opinion, and
I think another comment I'd like to make, it's not just residents. There possibly could be residents coming up that, but a lot of it, people don't, either they're going by GPS or whatever. There's a lot of people that don't live in that neighborhood that come up that way in the wrong, because they'll come up, they realize what they did, and they go into either my driveway, my neighbor's driveway, turn around and head back towards Hartford. So it's not all residents coming up the wrong way, because in my opinion is, if you're a resident, you live in that neighborhood, you know which way you're supposed to go.
yeah, and my only comments was that when we met with the neighbors, they acknowledged that they were doing it, which I think was part of that discussion.
And I'd like, the signage is not on Farm Street either. The only sign that says one way is right at the corner of Hartford and Cedar Hill. So it's only, you only see it if you're trying to enter the road, which I think was the original intent. There was originally the sign was do not enter. I've lived in the neighborhood since the accident that occurred that turned it into the one way. And for turning off of Hartford or turning off of Cedar Hill now, even with the light, it's still a dangerous turn. And it's a very short light as well. So if it's turned back into 2 lanes and we only have the 1 lane to get out, you're gonna wait several rotations of light to even get out.
And another comment is, during the summer times, a lot of people have get-togethers and they park on the street. So now if you're gonna have two lanes, where is people gonna park? But right now we can park on the side of our street in front of our homes. And now if you're gonna have a 2-way, that's gonna even narrow it more, and that's gonna cause an issue too.
And to add on to that, we have actually seen people pass each other like cars coming up down the street towards Hartford Ave, they will pass if somebody is going too slow for them.
I've witnessed it in Audi.
Because they think it's two lanes going.
No, because they're
One
trying
way.
to pass somebody, because people use it as a cut through. Sorry to jump in. I work from home, so I see this every day. I'd invite you to come down to Cedar Hill at 4:30 and watch the probably 35 to 40% Rhode Island plates fly through our neighborhood as if it was 495. We're new to the neighborhood. We're younger. I plan to raise my family there, and this one way would definitely make me, a one way changing to a two-way would make me think twice about whether or not, it's a spot to raise a family. As I think that letter has shown, there are dog walkers, there are families with children every day. We're at 55, that is almost the bus stop. There are children out there, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30 is a bus stop. People fly around that neighborhood, they come across and cut the corner. And they don't treat it like it's a neighborhood. So much so that your department knows me probably pretty well. Someone was throwing dog poop in our road for 6 months. 6 months. And it was a repeat offender, but it was someone not from the area because they don't care. It's not their town. I think what you see tonight is a lot of people whose town it is. It's been their town a lot longer. I grew up in an adjacent town. I always thought highly of Bellingham for the TVL. And I would hate to see that the road get changed because quite frankly, people speed on it already. I think the points that have been mentioned, the snow not getting cleared. I do my best with a snow blower, but the snow plow us right back in. I mean, I know there's a bus stop, I try. And then what I'd say is, please don't do this. I think you can see some folks here are obviously passionate about it. Myself included, but I see it every day, right at 4:30. It's a speedway, and I can only imagine it would increase accidents, which already occur at Hartford Avenue there. I mean, there's taillight pieces, bumpers hanging off all the time at that spot, and I don't see residents cutting it. That is one thing I would definitely push back on. If you mean coming off Arrowhead, well, then that's a question of signage, because to me, it's not a two-way, it is a two-way street basically, except for the part where you cannot turn off of Arrowhead. I would assume once you get to Arrowhead and the other neighborhood, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's a cul-de-sac. Sharp. I would assume Sharp folks turn right and left out of there. What we shouldn't do is open up everybody coming from the south side of town up that main drag there, essentially, and they're gonna come across. People already hang in that left lane as well, trying to get into the Larry's Liquors area. Obviously with Floor and Decor opening, we'll see some more traffic, that's great. But I would say, please don't change our street.
May I speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm listening to all of your points and I do feel that they're valid. But I also think and feel, as I hear your conversations, that this being a one-way has really caused a speedway. And it's the one-way has become a real convenience for the residents that live on Cedar Hill. And I think it's an unintended consequence that these cars are driving faster because, one, they don't have to worry about oncoming traffic. They shouldn't speed, don't get me wrong. And regardless, Bellingham is by nature, because of its layout, is a cut through town. I mean, I live on Maple Street, and I guarantee you there's as many Rhode Island residents speeding down Maple Street on a daily basis back in and out of the Amazon facility to get to work or leave work. So I completely understand. But I believe that, if you think about it, if you turned it into a two-way, by nature, it would slow traffic down. And it's unfortunate that you wouldn't be able to park on either side for your, I guess, block party. I'll call it that because how you described it sounded like a block party. And I think that's wonderful that there's a sense of community there. But I'm sure they have these types of parties on Arrowhead and Farm Street, yet they find ways to park in driveways or off the side of the road. It just sounds like your arguments are more of convenience. It's convenience, and you've got these unintended consequences. So I have to think a little bit more about, and I really want to talk to the safety officer is it really safe for that to be a one-way? I know there will be intersection redesigns when we widen Hartford Ave. You just heard there's a $4 million grant and we're getting more money. So that gives us an opportunity to kind of reinvent that whole intersection so that is safe. But the way it sounds that, you know, if we turned, I mean, at one point High Street was a one-way for a while, and I'll tell you what, those cars went significantly faster, and I've lived on Maple for a number of years, so I've personally witnessed it. If it was two-way, the traffic would be slower. It just naturally would. It would have to be. So I'm not either pro or con, but I really want to defer to the safety officer in this case, because the points you raise caused concern for me. And I know if it's getting worse, then we need to do something to slow it down because it will be unsafe. So
Mr.
that's all I'm gonna add.
Martinez, I'm just gonna stop you for a second because we have the safety officer right here, so.
Great, thank you.
Sergeant Padula, would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying the police department doesn't have a preference either way. I mean, completely fine, whatever the majority decision is, but I'd have to agree with Ms. Martinez. It does, if you're narrowing the road, typically you are slowing it, the traffic volume down. Just by nature, there's less room to move, so people tend to pay attention, you know, a little bit more. Secondly, the road is sufficiently wide. It's almost 36 feet wide at the end, 35 and a half to be exact. So it's difficult. The challenges that these people face are very real, but unfortunately they're not unique to any other road, Martina said. So it's hard to tell other residents that may come to us with the same situation and say, I want my road one way too. What's distinction that they have that I don't have? My road is even narrower than theirs. You know, the snow challenges that unfortunately is universal. Part of, you know, wintertime in New England. It's hard for me to have a position to say, you know, sure, we'll make it all one way, but what do I say to other residents that may have the same difficulties?
Ours is already a one-way.
Well, there's.
Why change it? It's
already
signed.
The road is a one-way because from what I understand, it was made that way because people coming from South Bellingham up Route 126, if that light was green, they'll keep doing 45 or 50, but they don't know that Route 126 went right. They would just come straight. Once they hit Cedar Hill, they were doing 50 miles an hour from coming, you know, straight down that road. And that was the main reason they had to shut that off, because people didn't realize it took a sharp right there. They just went straight through it, just came right up into the neighborhood. And I myself, I've lived there for 21 years. We saw a major accident in what, 05?
No, 2001,
In 2001, someone came up
going 100 miles an hour.
doing 100, hit a telephone pole, wiped out my neighbor's cars and landed in the backyard of a house there. That's how fast they came up that road. That's why it was truly turned into a one-way, because of the danger of people just coming straight up and not realizing the road takes a sharp right. And nobody does a speed limit, by the way. So whether that's 2 lanes or not, they're not going to obey a speed limit. Nobody does. If you're on the Mass Pike, you're doing 80 in a lane that's, you know, 10 feet wide. So nobody's going to do the speed limit. Nobody does it. Most people have a disregard for it, whether you're in the neighborhood now or wherever. Nobody cares. So unless they're going to put a police officer on Cedar Hill on a full-time basis, it's not going to work.
And the speed limit on Farm Street is 35 right now. So they set up a speed limit sign, but I find myself not going 35, but you see people whipping by you. But now with all the growth on Farm Street and other surrounding streets in that area from the landscape businesses, their trucks and their employees leave. They leave Farm Street and they come up Cedar Hill, the same speed limit as they are on Farm Street. So 35 miles an hour, you're not getting a ticket until 40, you know, 5 miles over, everybody's flying the road, me included. right? If you're calling everybody guilty. I drive over this.
So
Mrs.
I,
My
Miss-
question is, we've got an audience full of people that are against changing this to a one-way. We don't have
Yes.
the person here that talked to
Mhm.
Donald. Procedurally, what's?
there's
Dennis,
nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like
No action.
listening to what they're saying, and it totally makes sense from a resident and from empathetic, or what's the word, empathizing with you guys.
Yes.
What you've been through since 2001, I can't even imagine what that was like. So. What is our role here as the select board?
So,
If that's what you chose to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a note that, I appreciate everybody coming, and it just seems reasonable at this time that we don't take any action. We don't make any changes. Let's just leave it as is, and we move forward. I mean, I'm glad the residents showed up. It was good for us to send the letter out. We've heard them, and it's our responsibility. There's no reason we need to do it. So I think it's my opinion is we don't take any action, just leave it as is.
That would be my opinion as well. I don't think we should change it.
Agreed.
So,
Do we have to vote on this?
Do
or
we
what's-
need
No.
It's more,
No.
some, felt compelled to want to change it, they'd make a motion
Yep.
to change.
Right.
yep, so
All right.
that is where this conversation
for-
will
I'm glad that I
So
came.
thank you for coming. And thank you for allowing me to read the statement from the other resident. I know that they appreciate that as well. So thank you, everyone, for. Yeah, same thing.
Thank you very much for coming. We do
Thank
value
you.
your opinion, obviously, and.
And I'm
here to
glad you guys
support
came out to let us know that. So thank you very much. And thank you, Sergeant Padula, for sticking around. Your first night in the line of fire. Our line of fire, but.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now, only a few minutes behind schedule, we are gonna welcome Mr. Rydell into the hot seat. Jesse is our current.
Are you logged in and?
Yeah.
Want to share your screen share?
Yeah, we. Took a while, kind of get the ear of everybody there, sometimes like, okay, what's going on, but.
Yeah.
The first one is, in King and Bass, It's not Kingston, Rhode Island, which is actually closer. Kingston, man, it's like an hour away. Thank you.
So your slideshow?
And Don DiMartino on to his videos off, but he was here. So I know he's gonna shine.
We're gonna start up again.
Yeah, no, thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well said.
I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch. Yeah. Okay.
All right,
So
so.
by way of introduction, I think everyone knows.
Jesse.
Right now, or read.
Around.
What's the correct pronunciation?
I've always said Rydell.
Right.
I've heard different.
Many different ways, yeah. I'll respond to all of them.
Your name's a riddle.
Yeah. Oh. Coming along.
2018, I know you've got a copy of his resume. Done an outstanding job for the department, worked his way up to the position of Assistant DPW Director. And I think Don is with us this evening, and Don's worked closely with Jesse. And as everyone knows, Don is going to be retiring later this winter. And we have come to the opinion that we strongly believe that Jesse's ready to step in as DPW Director. We think Don, first of all, has done a phenomenal job grooming Jesse and working closely with Jesse in light of his interest in the position. So I give Don all the credit in the world for working hard on what we talk a lot about, a succession plan. We're gonna have to go outside. It's nice to be able to groom people from within, but obviously, ultimately, it's the select board that will ultimately make the decision. And what we want to do tonight, if possible, not make any appointments, but at least come to the understanding that this is the direction we want to go upon Don's retirement, because otherwise we need to get going on our recruitment process. So with that said, I know Jesse's got a presentation that he'd like to make, and turn it over to him.
Excellent. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for having me tonight. This is certainly appreciated. It's, words can't express how grateful I am for everything that's come my way in the town of Bellingham. Working for somebody as talented as Don Martino, learning from his experience, his role. It's been a tremendous experience. So I just put together a little presentation to give you all a little bit of my background, what's happened in my time in the Bellingham DPW, a little bit of my experience, my educational background, and open up the floor if anybody has any questions for afterwards. So, from here. So for anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Jesse Rydell. I'm the Assistant DPW Director down in Bellingham. Might not recognize me without the hat on tonight, so it is me. So educationally, my background, I started off following high school at Quinsigamond Community College. I actually started my senior year of high school partaking in the 12th year program, basically dual role, finishing high school and starting at a community college, where I obtained my associate's degree in business administration. From here, I pursued my career at Worcester State University. I did graduate in 2013 with my business degree in Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Once I started in Bellingham, I was fortunate enough to take certified public purchasing classes, MCDPO certifications, two of which I've received to date, the general overview as well as the vertical construction. I am interested in continuing with my horizontal construction. Unfortunately, the class that I'm looking at taking is actually falling right in line with my date to be, where I'm actually getting married in December. So it's actually, thank you very much. The class is actually overlapping with this, so I figured it would be in my best interest to hold off on that, but still obviously pursue it to follow. I absolutely don't want to start up on that. Since in Bellingham, I was fortunate enough to be accepted into MMA, put on a certificate class through Suffolk University. I was accepted into the program, and the town of Bellingham was generous enough to back me in this. It was a very unique class, certificate program, where I was able to learn all aspects of public administration, different roles throughout the municipality. We touched upon police reform, HR, things of that nature. And I did graduate the program in June of 2022 with my certificate. This could actually be applied towards a master's degree if it were pursued someday, but this was a fantastic opportunity. I learned so much from the program, and it was very worthwhile. I strongly recommend for anybody that's pursuing a role similar to this. It's such an eye-opener. It was a terrific experience. So in 2018, I was hired in Bellingham as the facilities foreman. At the time I was brought into the role, Bellingham was having some issues with PHM, mainly related to treatment techniques. I was able to take a role and help massage the areas where we were perhaps lacking in, providing guidance and training to the facilities operators and others within the department to get the town back into compliance and ensure that the water that we were producing was of adequate quality. Throughout my time with the facility foreman position, we've undergone sanitary surveys, upgrades to the plants, treatment facilities, things of that nature. With that being said, we have a number of well sites, 9 different sites. There's actually more wells than that. If you were to count the individual well heads, there's upwards of 16 well sites, I want to say, total. And with that, Bellingham has always been standings as far as the amount of water that we're able to produce. Obviously, there's an annual drought that's issued, water use restriction, I should say. Bellingham is typically not in as desperate of a need as maybe some of the surrounding communities. So I like to think that we played a valuable role in maintaining, adequate supply to all the residents. With this, we also have a number of standpipes, 3 of them to be exact. And with this, and actually as a result of one of these, having a new mixer station that's actually supposed to help us with our PHM compliance. It actually triggered an issue that we did combat to bring back to compliance, but it was an issue that we had off the bat with startup, as most of you are probably aware, the notifications that went up this past year was related to one of the startups at the standpipes, but obviously difficulties upon design compared to actually implementing the station. It was a learning process for all. We've since gone back to compliance, and with this little hiccup along the way, I think we're in much better standing now than we once were. So obviously our goal is to provide safe drinking water for all Bellingham residents. And lastly, everybody's favorite, sewer pumping stations. We have a total of 10 of these throughout town, and heavily involved with the maintenance repair that goes on with all these stations. Decommissioning of old obsolete stations, as well as the startup of a new station between Douglas Drive and the startup of Cooper Road. So again, going back to earlier on in the career, we actually welcomed the board a DOLS survey, Department of Labor Standards. We welcome the agency in to conduct surveys to be sure that we're safe in all areas within the departments. This was not only at the treatment plants, but also at the sewer stations throughout the DPW and the Parks Department. So we welcome them to critique us, give us areas that we might need to rethink, rework. And we took their recommendations very seriously, implemented new procedures, and I think it's a much safer place, and it was well received by all. One of the results that came of this that's ongoing is routine tailgate talks. So basically, every couple of weeks or so, we go through the procedure of gathering the entire DPW, and we go over an item of interest. It could be something as simple as first aid or cold fatigue, things of that nature. But we try to make sure that the crew is very cognizant of the dangers that are out there in the field. We want them to be aware of it. And we also want them to have the right tools to handle it appropriately. So this is actually something that is well taken by all. We've actually had a lot of great response, and the members will come forward with ideas that they'd like to have addressed during these meetings and taken very seriously. And I think we've seen great results as come from this. And just a few other points. So our water system, our SCADA system, this was in place upon my start here in Bellingham, but just getting the system to work properly, alleviate some of the problem issues that would maybe be reoccurring. Maybe they were ignored because it was a new issue, as opposed to putting a Band-Aid on it. We completely resolved the issues. Now if an alarm comes out, we know it's not an issue. On the other side of the thing, back to sewer, same idea. Tuning our mission dialers, making sure that there's redundant alarms and pump systems, so we don't have any SSOs or sewer backups. And obviously snow and ice. Bellingham is very well known for their snow and ice operations, being known to surrounding communities that were held to a very high standard. Continuing that idea, that notion, getting out there as soon as the floods start flying, and making sure our roadways are safe and pleasant for residents to travel. In 2020, I took the role as the assistant deputy director on Don's leave. Very fortunate, very appreciative of the role. I've learned a lot from Don, and I can't stress enough how much this man knows and how good he is at his job. And he's a great person to learn from. So it's been a terrific experience. And with this, various committees I've been involved with, road committee. With this year, we've had the opportunity to address certain risks with the funding available, known issues, paving, different projects, prioritization, and getting to witness the different techniques, whether it's a full-blown reclaim or if it's something as new and innovative as cold in place recycling. Different procedures out there, different ways of tackling it. Each situation requires a certain finesse to it, and it's been a very interesting process along the way. Just some other committees, cemetery committee, disability committee, and like we talked about tonight a little bit, the ARPA steering committee. So just getting involved with some of these, and you know, seeing what's involved in the needs of the town, and trying to make the right recommendations on these. Being part of the New England Waterworks Educational Committee. And we've been fortunate enough to actually facilitate some of these trainings, offer the sites as recently as last week. We had a Bay State Roads training all about liquids, dealing with treatments of the roads, calcium and things of that nature to try to ensure that we're ahead of the game, and you know what, we're treating the roads properly, and we're taking care of these existing issues. So with my role as DPW Assistant Director, heavily involved with both DPW and Parks. And with that role, I do take a lot of the burden with the weekly payroll, making sure that the staff they're all paid properly, time is accounted for, been part of the collective bargaining with the union, and also making recommendations towards capital planning and the needs associated with them. Making sure that both the state and federal regulatory compliance is met. So we do our bacteria sampling, our quarterly sampling. There's quite a bit of sampling, and making sure that we're in compliance with everything that we do within departments. More recently, our PFAS pilot study. Basically, everybody started with this new forever chemical, and you know, the implications behind that. We're looking at potentially removing it, and making sure we're in good shape for when the regulations do change, what the next steps might be. And to talk about a little bit more of the projects that people are probably a little bit more familiar with, such as the Transportation Improvement Project, the TIP, if you will, easement acquisitions, what's associated with that, project oversights, daily management meetings, something as simple as that. We go through a daily meeting with all of the managers throughout the DPW just to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're communicating, we can help each other, that type of thing. So working collectively amongst each other. Plan takeoff and review, reporting and recommendations, and permitting and submittals. So as the contractors progress, making sure that the work is not only done, but they're also paid for. So looking towards the future, obviously the big thing is 215 Depot Street. We're very excited about that. Very thankful for the opportunity for the next step for the DPW. Obviously, this is going to be tremendous value. The DPW is certainly in a great location now. The building is aging. We need to expand. You know, there's enough need for it that this new facility is going to be well taken, and I think we're all on the same page. Very appreciative of everything that the town has done for us. Looking into the next roles, as far as replacements, if there were to go that way, replacement for my position. I understand that, you know, Dawn has such an integral role with engineering and things of that nature. Obviously, my background is a bit more towards business, and while I understand the ideas and concepts, obviously there would be a bit of a hole there. Losing Dawn, we would have him as a consultant for a time. But obviously, looking to fill that void with potentially a DPW highway engineer position would make sense for a replacement for that position. Throughout the DPW, we'd be looking at continuing training, just making sure that what we do as a department is safe, making sure that you know, what gets done on a daily basis. Everybody's here for a reason, but we go home safe at the end of the day. We like to stress that and keep the positivity, the morale up, and you know, I think it goes a long ways. Appreciate technological advances. So I think Bellingham is above and beyond some of the surrounding communities when it comes to technology. With our GIS program, with our mapping, our SCADA system, we're in great shape right now. I think the idea is to continue on with this, keep advancing as technology changes, and just make sure we're ahead of the curve. Obviously, we have a great IT department on board to help with these changes as they come along, protect everything, make sure we're safe, we're compliant, but staying ahead of it. You know, it's certainly something that's only going to benefit the department as we move forward. And with that, increasing efficiency. So obviously we want to do a safe job, but we also want to be good at our jobs. I like to think that the DPW does a great job and we want to continue doing that and ensuring that we are known for that. There's a sense of pride and commitment in the department. You know, obviously we want to keep that as well and just make sure that everybody's on board with keeping Bellingham as a top performer. Now, as far as the town, obviously we talked about it a bit tonight. There's been a lot of growth and development throughout the town. Everybody sees that with the apartments, with the infrastructure, any of the developments that are going in. So as the town grows, so must we. With that, we also want to preserve the heritage of Bellingham. Obviously, we want to move towards the future, but we want to hold on to where we came from. Town itself. You know, keeping it grassroots community, but also moving to the future and continuing on the path that we're going down. With that, we've seen an increase to police and fire, the need for it. Eventually, I'm sure the DPW is going to feel the need for increased personnel and services. You know, as the town grows, it's only natural that the department will as well. As far as the infrastructure, as the demand increases, so must the infrastructure, whether that's water, sewer, the roadways. We just want to make sure we're ahead of the curve and keeping up with the demand and we're not falling behind in any area. Keeping the community involved, making sure that they're aware of the projects, making sure they have the opportunity to participate when possible. I think it goes a long ways to address the issues ahead of time. Like we saw tonight, bring the residents in, see how they feel about it. Just make sure that everybody's on the same page and we're making the right moves. And with that, open the floor for some questions. Does anybody have anything for me?
Go around. Mr. Connor, do you have anything?
How do you feel that the morale has been since you've been on board? Because obviously we had a number of well-tenured workers who retired. Roland Arcan passed away, and there's been new bodies in the position. How have you found managing them?
That's a great question. Morale's had its ups and downs. We've certainly had hires that have come aboard and really helped shape the way of the department towards a positive place to work. But we've had some hiccups along the way as well. We as managers try our best to keep morale high. We want to provide the tools, training, any of the necessary items, you know, for the department. You know, any way, shape, or form that we can help, even if it's something as simple as thanking the crew after you know, putting in the hours, whether it's showing our appreciation by posting something that a resident might have said in passing. I think it's important to continually try to pass along these positive remarks. All too often, DPW is only heard about when there's a problem. I think it's important to really push along the positivity as well as you know, some of these negative things that the crew might see. So while we're heading in the right direction, it's certainly known that you know, there are some hiccups that we've experienced along the way, but I think we're as a whole overall we're heading in the right direction.
Yep. How do you feel about saying no?
How do I feel about saying?
Yeah, I actually had a town employee said to me the other day, my street has not been paved in 40 years, but they're off the beaten path. And the whole roads committee issue. I've more times in my tenure here that Don DiMartino has said, a lot of things I'd love to do, but we can't. The answer is no, because if we had $50 million, we could repave every road in town. So that's a skill that Don has that.
He does. So saying no is, it's certainly something that, it's well warranted at times. Obviously, if, we're looking to move forward with a multi-million-dollar project and we have a couple $100,000 in the budget, unfortunately, there's gonna be no. If it's something that we can address, we'll do our best to make it happen. But there is a time and a place for any of these things to happen. So, to say no, I find myself doing it more and more lately.
Do you feel comfortable with the fact that one, we're going to have probationary workers that we're going to have to say, I don't think you're gonna work out. And two, to mitigate the union issues and the conflicts that may arise. And if you can comment on how you may have had those in the last few years.
So unfortunately, we've had, some of these exact, situations come up. In the last years, it has happened from time to time. It's unfortunate. We try to do our best when hiring. We don't want to see anybody hired and potentially not have a position in months to a year later. Certainly something that we don't anticipate. We hire somebody, we go into it full well hoping that they're going to succeed. We want to give them the tools, the ability to succeed. But overall, if we find that they're not making the cut, the best way to address it, is do it sooner than later, as opposed to give any false hope. And essentially get somebody in there that wants to do the job, that is gonna do the job in a timely manner. Currently, we are a bit short-staffed in DPW, coming into a tough season, winter, unfortunately, right around the corner.
This posting's on town website for the positions. If anyone's.
Please all apply.
And all the blinking signs all around town.
So it is difficult. It's a little unsettling at times to know that we are short-staffed, coming into our busy season with, the need for DPW plow operators, things of that nature. But I think overall, it's important to address these issues. It's a small stumbling block, at the here and now. Whereas if we were to ignore the issue, it's only going to get worse over time. So it's important to address it at that time and make sure the employees that we're filling these positions with are well warranted. They're people that we want to have around for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
You and I have talked about this in the past and even recently, but replacing 30 years of engineering knowledge and simply saying, let's hire a highway engineer does not fill the void of 30 years of experience in Mr. DiMartino. How do we do that?
I've said it time and time again. Those are some extremely big shoes to fill. The amount of knowledge, know-how, experience, education that Don has is tremendous. The town of Bellingham is truly fortunate to have somebody with that amount of knowledge to be here for that period of time. There's certainly going to be a transition period where I will certainly be learning the role, or whoever takes the position will be learning the role. I don't think there's any avoiding that, honestly. I think there's going to be a period of time where there is going to be some catch up. There are going to be mistakes made, but I think overall, putting your best foot forward, trying your best, learning from the mistakes, the downfalls, I think we'll come out as a stronger community as a result and move forward.
So I just have a couple of things. So for the board members who don't know, I actually got to have some time with Jesse in the field last week, actually, doing some work with the residents. So I got to see one-on-one how he worked with the public and also with another member of the DPW with him. And there was definitely a level of respect that you could see and feel throughout the whole process. I very much like the way that you involved the resident and explained things, how you went through everything. You were knowledgeable without sounding like a know-it-all, which sometimes is hard. And I think the resident appreciated that as well. So the biggest question I have, seeing all this, obviously you've got the experience. I do think you have the backing of the people that work with you day to day. You live in Holden. So my fear is you live a decent mileage away. Would you be willing or are you looking to move closer to Bellingham? Because I do think especially when we get to the winter, it's important for the director to be closer to town.
So to answer
I
that.
know, loaded question.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you asked, actually. So I have been looking, towards Bellingham, in Bellingham, for housing for quite some time now. I do love the town. It's a terrific community. I agree, you know, the drive it's not favorable. You know, it's, at least 40 minutes for me to get here in the mornings. Especially, in snowstorms, you know, obviously you want to do as little driving as possible. What I found with the current economy, the current market is, prices are just, very high. Very open to moving down. I think, it will come with time. I think it's just waiting for the market to kind of settle down a little bit, if you will.
Yeah.
Fantastic time to sell, terrible time to buy. No excuse, but at the same token, we were actually, my fiance and I were considering even renting if it came down to it. If things don't calm down as quickly as we're anticipating, potentially selling and renting until things do calm down. And then, you know, revisiting the subject. So absolutely, I'm glad you brought it up because it is a reality. I have been looking, we have been looking, and we are certainly interested.
And all of us here, we see what the economy is doing, so it's totally get it, horrible time to buy. But just to know that it's something that's on your level of thinking,
Absolutely.
you got this position, so I'm comfortable with that. That's all my questions, Ms. McNulty.
Jesse, I've been in many meetings with you and have been fortunate to experience your great communication skills with whether it's the public or just, you know, in meetings. And my personal opinion is I think your biggest challenge stepping into this role, aside from the amount of experience Don is leaving, is it's almost like you've got two different factions of employees that work for you, right? You've got the folks that have been there forever, you got the newbies, and then you've got the folks that might rattle your cage a little bit, if you will. So what's your current assessment of your staff? And can you give us an example of a situation you've had to manage that has been challenging and how you handled it?
So my current assessment, or of the current staffing, I should say, is we've got a number of very talented employees. They're very willing to work. More so, and I can't say it about all of them. We have some veteran employees that are fantastic. I think it's a mixed bag, with the majority of them being very willing. Veteran employees showing pride, the commitment to continuing how they know how to do things. It's a delicate dance, if you will, trying to teach the new way, but also respect those that have done it this way for so long. An example might be salting. We've sent employees to salt classes to learn how to calibrate the amount of material we put down, the speed in which they should be putting it down. Pre-treating. It goes a long ways with the new hires, maybe people that have never been in them before. But you also have the employees that have done it for 20+ years, and they're not going to listen to myself or anybody else that tells them to do it differently because they know how it works. It's not necessarily wrong, but at the same token, it's not the way that we will be presenting or teaching moving forward. So while we do have some employees that prefer to do it their way, as long as it's not dangerous, you know, they're doing it in a safe manner. I think that there's a level of respect that I have to show towards veteran employees to show them that I'm on their side. We're not here to make their lives any harder. We're here to make sure people do their job in a safe manner. And at the end of the day, it's all about family. So as they're not being confined and things of that nature, which we really don't have an issue as far as the day-to-day. For the most part, it's just a sense of pride people want to do things the way that they know how to do them, they've always done it. I have one of my most senior employees, actually, speaking of backflows, we've had several conversations on how he's done it, and he's come to me looking for recommendations. How come I see it come out like this? What do you do differently? So it's not a pride thing in some areas. Some employees are a bit more open to the conversation. We can have this two-way conversation, whereas others, they know what they're doing. They want to do it that way. And again, as long as they're being safe about it, you know, we will back them.
You ever had to fire somebody?
So unfortunately, we've let a few employees go. You know, some of them, different reasons, you know, whether it's just not the right fit for them or whatever it might be, but you know, I wouldn't necessarily say fire, but we've let them go. You know, resign, things of that nature. So unfortunately.
Okay, Jesse, since I met you and when we spent some time around town, and I can tell you how much knowledge you gain probably being around Don, as well as show me, you know, how passionate you are. You got the know-how. And I mean, in that short period of time, I think I might have asked you maybe billions of questions. And I was asking question after question, and then you were giving me answers left and right. And I mean, not even a little hesitation. I mean, that kind of showed me, you know, it's you absolutely have great knowledge behind you. You're passionate and you're eager to learn, and you're willing to take extra steps. And I think that's huge. On the other hand, obviously, you know, having somebody like Mr. Martinez, you know, he's been around the department for 30+ years, I think. And to losing him is going to be a huge challenge for you. But on the other hand, you know, it's obviously you're taking the right steps to fill in his shoes. And so my question will be to you. Obviously, you just mentioned that the town is growing. We do the infrastructure updates, so forth, so on. And so what do you think, how can we tackle that, or how can you tackle that? Or what are the priorities, and or how long it would take to get there? And well, what do you think? And obviously you're already in it.
So it really depends on how quickly the projects progress. So a lot of these the infrastructure that's being installed, developed as the development progresses. A lot of these are already designed ahead of time. We do a lot of approvals, you know, or modifications to make sure they're meeting what we need, specification wise, but also it's gonna be acceptable. It's gonna handle the flow, the capacity, the constraints that might come its way. So when it comes to the developments, as the community grows, a lot of these are designed, stamped by engineers to make sure they are adequate. Now, as far as the town itself, we do have consultants, engineers that we do discuss with on a regular basis. We look for their assistance, their guidance, whether it's document prep, you know, design of certain areas. I think it's something that we've always relied on and will continue to rely on, in addition to Don himself and others within the department. So I'm no stranger to looking to others for guidance as well. So I can't say that I know everything. I'm surrounded by a fantastic group of managers that each specialize in a certain area. So if I have questions, I have no problem going to them. And likewise, it's reciprocal. They have questions for me. I'm more than happy to do what I can to try to alleviate some of these questions.
Now with the answers. I love that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I think that's all my questions. And Don, thank you very much. You know, it's kind of shaping him into the position, you know, so you kind of, you know, to mold them into it, you know, fill your shoes, which is hard to fill.
Yeah, it's a pleasure working with Jesse. And unless I win $1.9 billion tonight, I think I'm gonna be around for a while too, helping them.
You might have to two now.
Mr. Martinez. do you have
Yes,
a
I do.
question?
Well, I don't. And I just, I guess I have one question. I think the board has done an excellent job of asking questions. And Jesse, I want to commend you on your presentation, because as you're going through your presentation, I'm writing down questions, and, you know, the next slide, you answered my question. So I really appreciate the fact that you took time. You were very thoughtful. You anticipated questions that were going to be asked by the board. So again, I just think it goes into how well prepared you are. I guess the one question I have outstanding, and you talked about Dawn, we know that Dawn would remain as a consultant to support you in the need for highway engineer, and obviously you recognize that. Are there other gaps currently in staffing that you would like to add over the next 12 to 24 months? Think about it in consideration of the infrastructure that's going to be added over the next 2 to 5 years and beyond. So you answered some of the question previously, but I'm just curious as to if you've given thought to what other resources, internal hires that you would like to make to kind of round out your team.
Yeah, that's a great question. With that, I would say one of the next hurdles, learning points is going to be the whole stormwater utility. So just as far as getting a hold of or grasp on what we're going to need to do to remain in compliance and meet these requirements, might be something to look towards in the future. As far as we currently maintain the basins, with the Parks Department, we're constantly, weed whacking, mowing back, things of that nature. But as far as recapturing some of these areas of impervious surface, I think it's going to be important to explore any possibility for stormwater basins and recharge, collect some of the stormwater runoff, and it's going to be a whole other animal in and of itself. So moving forward, that may be the next area where we want to add a little bit more focus to. I mean, we do have our GIS and MS4 coordinators, but maybe gearing up a little bit more towards the need for it and preparing towards the future.
And just one last question. Are there other courses that you've explored, certification-like courses that you feel could help you in your, potential new role over the next, I always say 2 to 5 years, because, just thinking ahead, are there some other certifications that you'd like to acquire?
Absolutely. So education is something that I'm constantly looking at, whether it's for myself, the other managers, for the crew. I'll tell you, it's unbelievable the amount of classes that they offer in all these different areas that are relevant to the field, whether it's competent person, road scholar courses, things of that nature. There's always something to learn. Even if you're aware of the current regulations, or you thought you were aware of them, just freshening up on them and learning, that now the new regulations, I would certainly be interested in pursuing anything, stormwater related, especially, or, when it comes to roadway improvements, or how other town municipalities do what they do to stay on top of these things. It's certainly something that we're constantly looking to attend, to join and learn from.
Okay, great. I'm good. Thank you again. I apologize to you that I'm not there in person. I wish I could be, but unfortunately I'm not. But I appreciate your time and all you do for the town of Bellingham.
Likewise.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. DiMartino, it is good to see you. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
I think you all know that as far as I'm concerned, Jesse is an ideal fit. His attention to detail, his commitment to the town, his commitment to, like his PowerPoint show tonight, to preparation is outstanding. One of the things that got me through 32 years here also, and I have to compliment our town administrator. I would probably not have been here 32 years without Dennis there. But then that's why Jesse relies on me and he knows to rely on Dennis, and that kind of support from above as well as the select board. And we go through Dennis, but it comes from you folks it makes Bellingham a fantastic place to work. It really does. And but Jesse is my mind came at ease when we hired him as facilities foreman, because I knew that he was the first manager that we had that had attention to detail, that knowledge and the yearning for knowledge, quick study, everything about him. It's he's my man.
That's
John, are
very
you
nice.
moving? He needs a house to live in.
I have the spare bedroom, but I'm not sure that Caitlin and Jesse.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much for coming in. Like you've heard from all of us, I think we've all had our own sort of individual experiences and times with you, and it's very clear that we've all gotten to see kind of a different side of you, which I think is good too. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I don't find, thank you.
Awesome.
I truly appreciate you having me tonight and giving me the opportunity to talk on this. This is fantastic, and thank you again. Town of Bellingham has been extraordinary. Everything that's come my way here has been top notch, and I sincerely thank everybody here. Thank
You're
you.
up for town meeting with all those capital requests.
Don, you won't miss that, will you?
I may still not be cleared. My appointment is that afternoon, so I'm thinking I'm gonna be there, but right now I'm not gonna make any commitments for sure.
Okay.
I'm walking fine, but I'm not.
We'll have you on speed dial.
It was a good presentation all along, but I'm sitting here almost falling asleep because my body is still healing and using a lot of energy. So,
Yes, it is. Well, continue your healing, Don. Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
Take care, Don.
Thank you.
And thank
Thanks,
you,
Jesse.
Jesse. All right, so next up, we are into other business, the Comcast cable renewal.
Yes, as you know, we have licenses with Verizon and with Comcast. We finally got the Comcast settled. Some of you were on the board when we had the ascertainment hearing some time ago. It might have just been, yeah, it was. Then, and I think it was before. Okay, so in any event, we finally got it settled. KP Law represents us with this. It's a 10-year agreement. The Verizon agreement was 5 years. That's Verizon. The feeling in the industry is Verizon may be getting out of the cable telecommunications business at some point in time. And that's why then we did a 5-year deal several years ago when we signed it. Believe it or not, they ended simultaneously. It just took us this much longer to get the deal done with Comcast. But as you can see, but from Attorney Hewitt, he obviously does a lot of these. He gave us an executive summary. He feels that it's very fair. It's all the points that we need to have hit. Access Bellingham basically runs off of the 5% franchise fee, or it's a 5% fee that you see on your cable bills. And that continues. Actually, it's gone from 4 to 5%. It's capped at 5%. And also there's capital that will be provided, $164,000 over 10 years. And some of the things that they'll be using that money for, that goes to Access as well, is to upgrade our system here. Either we're going to tie in, I was talking with Karen, either Access is going to be able to tap into our broadcast on Zoom, because the Zoom broadcast is excellent, obviously.
Yep.
So either tap into that, or we've got to get the high def channel. They talk about the high def channel here. It's $30,000 to have cable 8, not just for our broadcast, but for everything, go to high def. which would be nice, because the picture now is not great.
It's terrible.
So that's what that capital money will be used for. So with that said, it does require, you can see that Attorney Hewig, and I know you've got a copy of the contract as well, but Attorney Hewig does recommend the agreement as it's been executed. We did have several people involved in this process over the last few years, and everyone's on board that this is consistent with what they're required to provide. And the license really is granted by the board, which allows Comcast to continue doing business in the town. And I have Comcast.
I do too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So is there a motion?
There is a motion required, and the entire board will need to execute this, so we'll have it for you to execute. Signature page.
At the bottom.
It's at the bottom, but I think what do we actually have?
I see the signature page, but do we actually have a?
Oh,
Is there
the
a
motion is
or is it
To execute the
Like there a
cable
motion
agreement, right?
to execute the cable agreement with
Yeah,
Comcast?
recommended by-
So moved.
Is there a second by Mr. Connor. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
All those opposed? License renewal passes.
I
Next,
remember when we never,
next is the acceptance of our FY 24 policy statement. Did everyone have a chance to read it or give comment to Dennis
I
on the
thought it
policy statement?
Very well written as always.
yes,
On that.
Obviously, it does not require any action, but when everyone get, and that will go out tomorrow.
Perfect. So next, vote on gifts and grants. So it looks like we have a few all related to
Fire department,
fire department memorial donations.
and there's a motion there.
Anyone like to read the motion?
Madam Vice Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the gifts and grants and listed herein with said expenditures to be in the direction of the parties noted. Fire chief. A total of $325.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zaheen. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
All those opposed? We already did the ARPA minutes for the October 17th meeting.
motion approved.
Motion made by Mr. Connor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zaheen. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
Abatements.
Zaheen, you're up. Abatements, please.
Abatements, I'd like to move, to make a motion, to accept September 2022 capital improvement charge of $322.50, sewer $92.50, stormwater $156, trash $367, water $2,456.36, grand total of $3,394.36.
Second. We have a first and a second by Mrs. McNulty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Chris,
opposed?
Aye.
Yes.
On the $2,000 penalty waiver,
That's the one.
That's the
we
one
did.
that, has been-
they were in?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's why this one's so high.
I just, the last name was different than I was.
Oh, did we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any old business? Hearing none. Any new business?
I believe Dennis and I are attending the planning board meeting on Thursday night. Kick off the,
Yes, it's actually a meeting for the planning board.
For the planning board.
5:15, yeah. To the planning board put together an ad hoc group to take a look at the what's known as the median properties in Hartford Avenue. Bring neighbors in and kind of have a discussion about where do you go from here?
When we met with the Department of Transportation and the residents from the bridge on down, some of them expressed concern about the loss of their property, and they're being invited to be part of a discussion as to whether a motion 2023 would come forward from them.
And it's certainly open to the public, but the planning board wanted to kind of lead that discussion. If you recall, they did not support the action that was presented to town meeting, but what they said they wanted to do was come back to it and try and build some consensus over the planning. So it's an ad hoc group that's meeting, I think at 5:15 before the planning board, and obviously it's open to the public, so anybody's welcome to come and share their.
I think it's only a meet and greet of the people who've been invited to
And
participate.
the planning board is taking the lead.
And is this to try and come up with a plan to then present to the
Could be.
owner of the property?
Could be, it could very well be, or it may turn out that there isn't anything to come out of it, but I think it's, the planning board wanted to, because we did hear from some residents, two in particular, that very much support doing something with the property, because the properties at Front Hartford Avenue, because they feel that their properties
Not landlocked.
just, don't work residential, particularly the ones on the other side of Deerfield heading towards Walmart.
Right. So this is separate from the three homes that, you know.
Unrelated, he's not
Okay.
part of it, but it would be,
Right.
But he may very well be attending.
Yeah.
From what Mr. O'Connell, or not him, but a representative, an
Okay.
engineer or somebody.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously we'll make sure that the ad hoc groups still have an obligation to post their meetings, so we'll make sure the groups are posted. Open and as much as anything, it's some brainstorming and throwing out ideas, makes sense of it.
That's on this Thursday, Mike.
Is it this Thursday?
Yeah,
It is this Thursday.
and I think it's downstairs though, right? Why is it downstairs?
just sitting on the table.
Okay.
Town administrators report.
So,
At 5:30.
5:30, good. Is it safe to assume that I should not prepare a advertisement for DPW's director search?
I think it's safe to assume that, but I won't speak for the rest of the board.
What would the timing be, highway engineer?
Well, we probably would put the wheels in motion, get a job description going immediately. Get working towards that. Again, Dawn is talking late January, early February, so.
Yep.
It's just the worst time to put an advertisement out in November, December. The best time, as everyone knows, is January. It's start of the year, everybody's looking fresh. November,
Yeah.
December, the time. But maybe we'll put it out in early December anyway and leave it open until the third week of June. Give us some time. And as I say, Dawn is obviously going to be a big part of the transition, so it's not as if he's moving somewhere and involved. So if everyone's good with that, we'll bring that forward again, once we get a firm, date from Dawn. Dawn, are you good with that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. Hartford Ave Massworks grant, I know Mike talked on it, but $4 million, that's the biggest non-tip grant I think we've ever received for infrastructure, so it's just phenomenal. That we received that much. Obviously, we have a ways to go. It's a $9 million project. We'll be looking at other sources, and WS will obviously be a major contributor there as well. Comcast, we talked about that. Finance Committee recommendations. If you've got copies of that, I know we've got the motions. Lauren Goldberg is going to be attending. There's only 13 articles, so and I think there's only 11 sponsored by the board, so only be a couple each. And as is always the case, if anyone has a request, I know Mr. Martinez will be the chairman, typically gives out the motions, but if anyone did have a request, let us know. Claire's Way, you saw the resolution on that. KP Law did come out with a resolution that's not binding. So if another board in the year decides we don't want to do it, and it's spelled out carefully in that, we wouldn't. And I think the only reason we're doing it in this particular instance is because we've been doing it for 54 years. I think typically we don't do
Yeah.
private period,
Yeah.
but this was an exception. And then the Veterans Day ceremony is this Friday at 11 o'clock. That's all that I had. 11 o'clock at the library.
So having status our agenda, unless anyone else has anything they wish to discuss.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 8:45. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.